Why do Greek kitchens feel so timeless? The answer lies in the jars, tins, and bottles that sit quietly on the shelf, waiting. Greece, with its sun-drenched islands and mountain villages, has passed down food-saving wisdom for thousands of years. From the honey of Mount Hymettus to the olive oil of Crete, these staples are more than ingredients. They're survival, heritage, and flavor all at once. War, famine, and faith all shaped what Greeks keep. Salt, fire, and patience did the rest. Open a Greek pantry and you'll find food that can last through winter, hardship, or even a sea voyage. These are 20 foods the Greeks stockpile that never expire. Each one tells a story that is meant to be told forever, like the first item on this list. Thick, golden, and fragrant, Greek honey is among the oldest known foods still in use today. It was used by the Minoans on Crete as early as 2000 BCE, and ancient Greek texts describe it as a gift from the gods. Beekeeping thrived in places like Mount Hymettus near Athens, where wild thyme and herbs made the honey rich in flavor and aroma. Unlike other foods, honey is naturally antibacterial and low in moisture. It never spoils when sealed. Ancient Greeks stored it in clay pots, offering it in rituals or mixing it into bread, wine, and medicine. Today it's still harvested from hillside hives in places like Kalymnos and Icaria. To make Greek honey, beekeepers follow the seasons. Bees gather nectar from native herbs like thyme, fir, or orange blossoms. Once the honeycomb is full, the wax is removed. The honey is spun out and strained, then sealed in sterilized glass jars. No preservatives are needed. It thickens over time, but remains safe and delicious for years. Greek families drizzle it over yogurt, dip bread into it, or bake it into melomacarona cookies. It's sweet, sacred, and slow. It keeps without freezing. It feeds without spoiling. And yet the next item starts the opposite way, with sharpness, not sweetness. Strong and sharp, Greek vinegar begins where wine ends. It has been part of Greek kitchens since classical times, when wine left open to air would sour and become something new. Sidi, used for cooking, preserving, and cleaning, it never spoils. Instead, it grows deeper with time. In Crete and the Peloponnese, vinegar is often made from red or white wine. The process is simple but patient. After the wine is exposed to oxygen, natural bacteria called acidobacters convert the alcohol into acetic acid. Traditionally, this was done in ceramic jugs kept in cool pantries or cellars, sometimes for months. Once the transformation is complete, the vinegar is strained, bottled, and sealed. High acidity, usually above 5%, prevents harmful microbes from growing, making it shelf-stable for years without refrigeration. Even if a mother forms, it's a natural part of unfiltered vinegar and still safe to use. Greeks use vinegar in salad dressings to marinate meats or to pickle vegetables like cucumbers and caper leaves. It's also used in lentil soup, giving the dish a bright tang. Vinegar preserves, it transforms, it stays. But what happens when preservation comes in crystal form, harvested from tree bark instead of fruit? Mastiha looks like tiny drops of glass, but the moment it touches your tongue, it softens into something earthy, sweet, and ancient. This resin comes from the mastic trees of Chios, the only place in the world where the trees naturally cry in large, usable quantities. The island has harvested it since at least the 1st century CE, and during Byzantine times it was so valuable that villages were fortified to protect it. To make mastiha, farmers lightly score the bark of the tree. Over days, the sap drips out and dries into clear crystals on the ground. These drops are then collected, washed, sorted by size, and stored dry. Resin lasts for decades because it has almost no moisture, and its natural antimicrobial compounds keep it stable without refrigeration. It's chewed as a gum, ground into pastries for Easter, stirred into spoon sweets, and dissolved into liqueur. Even today, Chios villages celebrate the harvest, passing down the same scraping tools used by ancestors. It is fragrant, precious, and unchanging. And now we move from crystals to liquid gold. But what happens when the food that lasts the longest flows instead of hardens? Olive oil sits at the center of Greek life. It seasons food, lights lamps in ancient temples, and appears in myths, dating back to Athena's sacred olive tree on the Acropolis. Greece has produced olive oil for over 4,000 years, with major centers in Crete, Kalamata, and Lesvos. Extra virgin olive oil comes from the first cold pressing of ripe olives. Farmers harvest by hand or with gentle tools, then crush the olives into paste. The paste is slowly stirred, allowing oil droplets to gather, and finally pressed or spun to separate the oil. Once filtered, it goes straight into dark glass bottles or tins. Olive oil lasts because it is low in water and high in natural antioxidants. Stored away from heat and light, it can remain stable for years, slowly mellowing with time. Ancient Greeks kept it in clay amphorae. Modern households use metal tins, but the purpose is the same: protect the oil from air. Culturally, olive oil is everywhere. It finishes salads, enriches stews, covers feta, and even appears in fasting dishes during Lent. It is a symbol of purity, health, and home. It is smooth, ancient, and enduring, while the next food begins not as a liquid, but as bread baked twice until it's tough enough to outlast seasons. Paximati is a traditional Greek twice-baked bread made from barley or wheat, known for its hardness, shelf life, and deep cultural roots. Unlike fresh bread, paximati is meant to be dry. It's a food designed to wait. In ancient Greece, sailors and soldiers carried it for long journeys, and by the Byzantine period, it had become a staple in monasteries and mountain villages. The preparation begins with kneading whole grain flour, water, yeast, and sometimes olive oil into dense loaves. Once baked, the loaves are sliced and returned to the oven at a low temperature for several hours until completely dried. This second bake removes moisture, which is why paximati can last for months without spoiling, especially when kept in sealed containers or dry pantries. In Crete, it forms the base of the famous dakos, where the bread is softened with olive oil and topped with tomatoes, feta, oregano, and olives. For many Greeks, paximati is tied to memory of grandparents' kitchens, slow meals, and island summers. It's firm, enduring, and rich with history. While the next food comes soft and creamy, its secret lies in a metal can. Gigantes are giant white beans, often cooked in tomato sauce with herbs and olive oil. In Greek homes, especially in the north, they're baked slowly until tender and full of flavor. When preserved in cans, they become one of the most nourishing, long-life foods in the Greek pantry. Gigantes have roots in ancient agriculture, with the beans cultivated in regions like Castoria and Florina. By the early 20th century, they had become a central part of Lenten meals and village diets. The name gigantes means giants, not just for their size, but their presence in everyday cooking. To preserve them, cooked gigantes are placed into sterilized cans with seasoned tomato sauce, then sealed and heat processed. This kills bacteria and keeps out air, allowing them to remain safe for years. No refrigeration needed. The oil, acidity, and careful sterilization ensure long shelf life. Today, they're eaten warm or cold, straight from the can, or served as a meze. They appear on family tables, at name day feasts, or spooned onto fresh bread as a quick lunch. They're humble, hearty, and ready at a moment's notice. But what happens when the preserved ingredient isn't a bean, but a pepper? In the northwestern region of Greece, near the border with North Macedonia, the town of Florina grows something special. Long, sweet, red peppers known as piperes florinus. These peppers have become a symbol of the region. Introduced to Greece in the 17th century from the Americas, they found their perfect home in Florina's rich soil and temperate climate. By the 20th century, they were being celebrated in local harvest festivals and protected as a PDO, or Protected Designation of Origin, product. After harvesting in late summer, the peppers are roasted whole over open flames. Once blackened, they're peeled by hand, packed into glass jars with brine or olive oil, and sometimes flavored with garlic or vinegar. This method locks in their smoky, sweet taste while removing air and bacteria, allowing unopened jars to last up to 2 years. Florina peppers appear in salads, sandwiches, meze platters, or stuffed with cheese. Their vivid red color and soft texture are instantly recognizable on Greek tables, especially in the colder months when fresh vegetables are scarce. They're bright, tender, and preserved with care. And while peppers soften in jars, the next food comes dry, grainy, and shaped by winter's hunger. Trahana is one of the oldest preserved foods in Greece. This small, lumpy grain is made by mixing cracked wheat or flour with fermented milk or yogurt, then forming and drying the dough into tiny pebbles. It was once a key part of village life, especially in mountainous regions where winters were harsh and pantries had to last. The preparation is simple but slow. The mixture is kneaded, spread out on cloth or wooden trays, and left to dry in the sun. Once hardened, it's crumbled and stored in fabric sacks or clay pots. The absence of moisture and the lactic acid from the fermentation help it last for months, sometimes even years, without spoiling. In traditional Greek homes, especially in Thessaly or Epirus, trahana is turned into thick soups with water, olive oil, and sometimes cheese. It's filling, warming, and deeply tied to the memory of grandmothers cooking at dawn. Trahana isn't just food. It's survival, passed from generation to generation. But what happens when the sweetness of grapes is preserved without turning it into wine? Petimezi is Greece's oldest natural sweetener, long before sugar reached the region. Made from grape must, the unfermented juice of crushed grapes, petimezi is thick, dark, and full of history. It dates back to ancient Greece, where it was called syreos and used in both medicine and cooking. Hippocrates recommended it for health, and classical texts praised its richness. After grapes are harvested, usually in late August or September, the must is slowly simmered in open copper cauldrons. The juice thickens over hours, reducing by more than half. Impurities rise to the top and are skimmed off by hand. No additives, no preservatives, just heat and time. The end result is a syrup so dense that it resists spoilage. Stored in clay jars or glass bottles, petimezi can last years. It appears in both savory and sweet dishes, used to sweeten koularakia or cookies, drizzle over yogurt, or glaze roasted meats. Petimezi brings a deep, caramel-like flavor with slight acidity. Some villages even mix it with snow in winter for an early version of granita. It's a memory from vineyards bottled for the long months ahead. While petimezi holds sweetness in syrup form, the next food seals salt, sea, and protein into a tin. Greek canned sardines are more than a pantry item. They're a product of sea, salt, and thyme. Caught fresh in the Aegean or Ionian seas, especially near Kalymnos, Lesvos, and Kavala, these small oily fish have nourished Greeks since antiquity. Even Aristotle wrote about the importance of salted fish in local diets. Traditionally, sardines were cured in salt and dried under the sun, but by the mid-20th century, canning became the standard method for preservation. Fresh sardines are cleaned, steamed, or lightly fried, then placed into sterilized tins. Olive oil, lemon slices, or herbs are added before sealing. Finally, the tins are heat-treated in pressure cookers to kill bacteria and seal in flavor. The oil and airtight packaging prevent oxidation and microbial growth. Unopened, these tins last up to 5 years or more. Over time, the fish absorb more oil, softening and deepening in taste. In Greek kitchens, sardines are eaten straight from the tin, layered on dakos, or served warm with capers and oregano. During Lent, they often replace meat, their sea-preserved strength in a box. But what happens when sesame is crushed, creamed, and saved in jars? Known in Greece as tahini, it's a creamy paste made from ground sesame seeds. Rich, nutty, and naturally oily, it's both a pantry essential and a symbol of simplicity in Greek cooking. While sesame was introduced to Greece from the East thousands of years ago, tahini itself gained popularity during Byzantine times and was further embraced in the 20th century, especially during Lent. The production process is straightforward but deliberate. Sesame seeds are hulled, roasted, and then ground into a smooth paste. No water is added and no refrigeration is required. The natural oils in sesame act as preservatives, and when stored in a sealed jar away from light and moisture, tahini can last for years without spoiling. Separation of oil is natural. Just stir and use. Tahini's role in Greek food is quiet but steady. It's used as a base for sauces, especially in fasting dishes where dairy and meat are avoided. Mixed with lemon juice and garlic, it becomes a creamy dressing. Spread over bread with honey, it's a classic Lenten breakfast. Its high nutrient content, rich in calcium, iron, and protein, makes it both practical and nourishing. In times of hardship, tahini was a source of sustenance. During war and scarcity, its long shelf life and versatility made it invaluable. Today, it still sits on Greek shelves for the same reason. It waits, it lasts, and it feeds. It's smooth, simple, and ancient, but the next syrup doesn't come from seed or fruit. It flows from a tree and a dry island soil. Carob syrup, or carob is one of Crete's quiet treasures. Made from the pods of the carob tree, or Ceratonia siliqua, this thick, dark syrup is rich in natural sweetness and carries a deep connection to the island's past. In ancient times, carob was known as St. John's bread, and during the German occupation of World War II, it became a vital source of nutrition for starving populations across Greece. The syrup is made by crushing the dried carob pods, soaking them in water, and boiling the mixture until it thickens. This gentle, slow reduction process draws out the natural sugars, creating a molasses-like syrup without additives. Because of its high sugar concentration and lack of moisture, carob resists fermentation and spoilage. When stored in sealed glass bottles, it remains shelf-stable for years. On Crete, it's used in both sweet and savory dishes. Locals drizzle it over yogurt, stir it into coffee, or bake it into breads and cookies. It adds depth to sauces and even appears in marinades for lamb. Carob syrup is valued for its health benefits too, naturally high in calcium, fiber, and antioxidants. Cretan families often make their own, passing down the method generation to generation. It speaks of resilience, tradition, and resourcefulness. It tastes like survival sweetened by time. It's dark, thick, and born of drought and sun, and yet the next sweet was born from seeds, pressed into bars, and carried through centuries. Pastelli is one of the oldest known energy bars in the world. This golden, glossy snack is made from just 2 ingredients, sesame seeds and honey, yet it holds centuries of Greek tradition in each bite. Found in ancient Greek texts under the name gastris, pastelli was offered to warriors for strength and travelers for endurance. It's still made much the same way today. To create pastelli, sesame seeds are lightly toasted, then mixed with warm, flowing honey. This sticky mixture is poured onto cool marble or baking sheets, flattened and left to set. Once firm, it's cut into bars or diamonds. Because both sesame and honey are natural preservatives, low in water and high in antibacterial properties, pastelli keeps for months without refrigeration. It's a staple during Lent and fasting periods when dairy and meat are avoided, but it also appears in everyday lunchboxes and market stalls across the country. In the islands, pastelli is often wrapped in lemon leaves to absorb their scent. On the mainland, it's sometimes enriched with almonds or citrus zest. Beyond its sweetness, pastelli is revered for its simplicity. It reflects a deep Greek belief that nature, when treated with care, gives all you need. It's bright, crisp, and nourishing, designed to last and built to travel. And yet the next dessert takes a softer shape, born from war, hardship, and flour turned into comfort. Halva is the humble hero of Greek pantry sweets, soft, dense, and often shaped into bricks or rounds. This dessert is made from tahini, sugar, or honey, and sometimes nuts or cocoa. It's especially popular during Lent and fasting seasons when eggs and dairy are avoided, but its roots stretch far deeper. The word halva comes from the Arabic halwa, meaning sweet. It spread through the Ottoman Empire and found a permanent home in Greece. During the Asia Minor refugee crisis in the early 20th century, Greek families brought halva-making traditions with them, recipes that used pantry ingredients to create satisfying food in times of loss and displacement. To make halva, hot syrup is stirred into tahini until it thickens, then poured into molds and left to set. No baking, no chilling. It keeps well at room temperature thanks to its low moisture, dense texture, and natural oils. Stored in paper or tins, halva can last for months. Today, halva is sold in corner markets and holiday stalls. It's eaten with bread, paired with coffee, or enjoyed as a midday bite. Its crumbly texture melts slowly, offering comfort with every forkful. It's sweet, silent, and steeped in history. While the next preserved food doesn't come in a box, it comes bottled from the mountains, packed with greens and a salty secret. In the mountainous regions of Greece, from Epirus to Crete, locals have foraged wild greens called korta for centuries. These aren't cultivated crops, but bitter herbs, dandelion leaves, amaranth, and mustard greens gathered by hand, often by grandmothers who know exactly where and when to look. Rich in nutrients and flavor, these wild greens are boiled, then preserved through pickling to last well beyond their short growing season. To make torsi korta, the cleaned greens are blanched, drained, and packed tightly into sterilized glass jars. A solution of vinegar, salt, and sometimes garlic or peppercorns is poured over them, ensuring every leaf is submerged. The acidity of the vinegar and the salinity of the brine stop bacterial growth. With the lid sealed tight, the jar is left to rest in a cool place for weeks, where the flavors mature and the greens soften while holding their bite. These pickled greens appear on tables during fasting periods, meaty platters, or as sides to grilled meats and fish. In the north, they're sometimes mixed with beans or olives, while islanders pair them with rusks and oil. What began as a survival technique is now a cherished culinary tradition, passed down like a secret map of the land. It's sour, earthy, and unmistakably Greek. But the next ingredient doesn't come from the earth. It comes from the sea, sun-dried, white, and eternal. Long before refrigeration, the Greeks turned to salt to protect their food. From Messaloniki to Lesvos, salt pans glisten under the Mediterranean sun, forming crusts that have sustained generations. Salt harvesting begins in spring. Shallow coastal pools fill with seawater, then slowly evaporate through the heat of summer. As the water disappears, fine crystals form, raked by hand, dried under shelter, and sorted into coarse or delicate flakes. No chemicals, no additives. Just sun, sea, and patience. Salt doesn't expire because it lacks moisture and resists microbial growth. Kept dry, it can last indefinitely. In traditional kitchens, it's used to cure olives, preserve fish, dry cheeses, and enhance stews. In ancient times, it was offered to the gods and traded like currency. Today, Greek cooks still sprinkle fleur de sel onto grilled octopus or rub thick salt into lamb before roasting. Salt is stored in ceramic pots, glass jars, or linen bags, proof that even the simplest ingredient deserves care. It's clean, mineral-rich, and everlasting. While the next sweet doesn't preserve what's around it, it preserves itself in powdered sugar and rosewater. Soft, sweet, and dusted in powdered sugar, loukoumi is Greece's most iconic bite-sized confection. Made from a simple mix of sugar, water, and starch, it transforms into a chewy delight that lasts for months without spoiling. Its magic lies in its simplicity and its heritage. Loukoumi arrived in Greece in the 19th century, likely inspired by Turkish delight, or lokum, from Constantinople. But it quickly became its own tradition. In 1832, the first official Greek loukoumi workshop opened in Syros, turning the island into the dessert's spiritual home. By the late 1800s, Syros was exporting it across Europe. The famous varieties, rosewater, mastic, bergamot, are still made by hand today. The process starts by boiling sugar and starch until the mixture thickens to a gel. Once cooled in trays, it's cut into cubes and rolled in powdered sugar or desiccated coconut. With no eggs, dairy, or fat, loukoumi resists spoilage. Stored in airtight tins or boxes, it stays soft for months, even years. Traditionally served with Greek coffee to welcome guests, it's a symbol of hospitality. In some villages, it's given at weddings, baptisms, or saints' days. It's sweet, delicate, and always ready for company. And while this treat is soft and perfumed, the next treasure is firm, briny, and steeped in the land itself. Few foods are more deeply rooted in Greek identity than olives. Cultivated for over 4,000 years, they are symbols of peace, prosperity, and endurance. From the dark, wrinkled thrubs of Thassos to the firm, green Chalkidiki variety, each olive holds a story and a method of preservation that makes them last. Fresh olives straight from the tree are inedible due to their bitterness. To cure them, Greeks use a time-tested method, brining. The olives are soaked in water, then packed in a saltwater solution. Sometimes they're slit or cracked to speed the process. Over weeks or months, the brine draws out the bitterness, infuses flavor, and halts microbial spoilage. Vinegar, lemon slices, or herbs like oregano and bay leaves may be added. The jars are sealed, stored in cool cellars or pantries, and opened only when needed. Because of the salt and acidity, brined olives can last for years without refrigeration. They appear in everything: horyatiki salads, meze platters, stews, and breads. Even the oil-soaked pits are sometimes reused for fuel or pressed again for soap. The olive tree is sacred, but the preserved fruit is practical. Still, not every Greek preserve is plucked from a tree. Some are hidden in buds and leaves waiting to be jarred. Nestled in rocky coastal cliffs and sunlit Aegean islands, the caper bush grows wild and unbothered. Its flower buds are well known, but in Greece, the leaves of the plant are the real hidden gem. Tender, tart, and slightly peppery, caper leaves, or Phylla caparis, have been foraged and preserved by island communities for generations. Particularly prized in the Cyclades, especially Santorini and Tinos, the leaves are picked young before they toughen in the sun. Once collected, they're rinsed and left to sit in salted water or vinegar brine, often with a touch of lemon or garlic. This process not only preserves the leaves, but deepens their bright, savory character. When sealed in sterilized jars, they can last for more than a year without refrigeration. Caper leaves are used in Greek cuisine as more than a garnish. In Naxos, they're chopped into lentil salads. In Paros, they're layered into tomato stews. Their ability to add sharpness without overpowering makes them a quiet staple in the Greek kitchen. They are rarely exported and often passed down through family tradition. Something you find not in stores, but in grandmother's jars tucked deep in the pantry. They're small, humble, and made to last. But the next item isn't for seasoning or salad. It's smoky, smooth, and ready to be spread. Charred over an open flame, mashed with garlic, and folded with olive oil, Melitza nosalata is a spread that captures the warmth of Greek kitchens and the richness of homegrown vegetables. Though its texture is soft, its roots go deep into Greek village life, where eggplants were roasted fresh and turned into meals that could stretch through the week. Eggplant cultivation in Greece dates back to at least the 15th century, and the dish itself shares ancestry with Middle Eastern baba ganoush. But the Greek version has a smokier finish thanks to grilling the aubergines whole until their skins blister and their flesh softens. Once peeled, the eggplants are mashed by hand and mixed with garlic, lemon juice, olive oil, and sometimes yogurt or parsley. To preserve it, the finished spread is packed into sterilized jars while still warm. Olive oil is poured over the top to seal out air and bacteria. When stored properly, Melitza nosalata can keep in a cool pantry for months, making it a favorite in seasonal kitchens that rely on summer harvests. It's eaten on bread alongside grilled meats or with other meze dishes. It's creamy, rustic, and deeply tied to the rhythm of the land. It's the last jar opened on a quiet night. Centuries of sun, sea, and scarcity taught Greeks how to make food endure. Every jar, cube, and syrup holds more than flavor. It holds foresight. But Greece isn't alone in this art of preparation. Germany stockpiles too, with its own traditions. How do their pantries compare when nothing fresh remains?